Order. A reminder, we have a room upstairs that you could actually see the proceedings, so you don't have to stand. And obviously, we want everyone to feel welcome, but it looks like it's a little crowded. So there is a room upstairs. If you, we'll call it the overflow room for today. If someone or anyone wants to go sit up there, and you can see the proceedings. But first off, I want to welcome all our guests, and certainly happy International Women's Day to all our ladies in the audience. And welcome to this special board meeting. I'm going to start the agenda by asking if any board members that would wish to declare conflict of interest. Seeing none, the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover for that, please? Member Kaspersets, second by Member Diodati. All those in favor? Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. We have one item under business, and that's a report for consideration. I will need a mover to put the operational review draft RFP on the floor. Member Dart, seconded by Member Beatty. All those in favor? That is carried. That report is on the floor for questions or comments. Member Timms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the report in the appendices, what I wanted to suggest was that we add reference in the appendices all the motions that the municipalities had passed and put forward. In terms of reference, I think it's an essential reference material for the people that are responding to the RFP, that they see all the motions from all participating municipalities that are, I think, relevant information. I see the scope that you have defined in here. In general terms, pretty much covers it. But in terms of the scope, we want to make sure that every municipality is confident that the scope covers what they had dealt with in their motions. So I'd like it as an addition, like maybe appendix or whatever. It just has all those motions in it.
Okay. I'm going to clarify for the board why any additions, any deletions, any revisions, any recommendations from the board are out of order, specific to the motion that we passed. The RFP document, as presented, has been independently produced by our interim CAO, Peter Graham, the Region of Niagara representatives, the City of Hamilton representatives, and of course, our representatives in Haldeman chose not to participate in the process. This is their recommendations. These are the results. What I'm looking for is a ratification. So I open it up to discussions, but again, I want to clarify that these discussions about this particular document should not include any additions, deletions, or updates of any sort. The direction was clear, that the board maintain an independent process. It's been an independent process. This is the first opportunity that any of us have had to see the RFP document, and I think that's a good thing because it was created independently without the hands of the board involved in this process, making it a truly independent third-party creation of an RFP document. So I hope that answers your question with respect to additions. So again, I'll be looking for a move.
It doesn't satisfy my concern that those motions be added as be part of the package that anybody considers when they're looking at this responding to the proposal. So if there is some way to get that information added without having to go back to whoever, I would appreciate it that it be done, because I think that it's a clear need for, in some measure, for all those municipalities to say, okay, the board's got our motion, they're dealing with Member Hodgson's motion, because that's what we have to deal with. But they did hear us, they did receive it, it's in the package, we're good.
Okay, so
without that, I think we set ourselves up for the option to say they sent out an RFP without even considering including our motion. There's mayors around the table. I hope they would have a look at that consideration and see if there's any mechanism that you can see
Okay.
where that is included in the package.
So I've given you some latitude, okay? I've made a ruling that it is inappropriate. It is out of order for the board at this point to make any revisions to the RFP document that has come forward.
So then why do we have it?
Why
For the board?
It's a draft.
We're following the recommendation of the motion. Now, to address your concern with respect to the municipalities, it is in the RFP, the motion. It speaks specifically to addressing the concerns of the various municipalities that have brought forward those concerns. Any other questions to the RFP document coming forward? Member Quirk, and then Member Hodgson.
So I recognize that if the board, the reason it came to the board was at the last meeting, we made the decision that we wanted to see it before it was issued, but I have also addressed the concerns previously that if we try to amend it or want to make any changes, that we have to refer it back to the independent panel, any comments that we have, and I think that would be inappropriate and contrary to the intent of Member Hodgson's motion, but I'll let Member Hodgson talk to that. The only comment I want to make on the RFP, and it's just for sort of managing expectations, is that the RFP calls for a 30-day turnaround schedule for the process. I think that is aggressive. I would like to be able to see them accomplish that, but I think if we are actually undertaking a true organizational review and performance assessment, doing that on 30 days' notice is going to be tricky. But I look forward to seeing what the respondents say to that of where. The other thing is, I know that the waiting for the price is 25%, but we've actually put in here what the budget is. So I sometimes think that when you tell a consultant how much you have to spend, they'll find a way to spend it. So I don't know if that weighting is appropriate. But those are my only comments. Thank you to the independent panel for putting it together. Thank you for the acting CAO for the work he did at coordinating all those meetings.
Peter?
If I could speak through you, Chair, to the few of the concerns. I absolutely agree, number one, in terms of the timeline. The project team itself, which I'm calling the project team, representatives from the City of Hamilton, Niagara Region, and myself, we want to be aggressive and really push this. However, it's specifically noted in the RFP that it's a tentative project schedule. So we do want to make sure it's done right, but we want to put the heat on to be able to push this through. However, I totally agree that it's a very aggressive timeline. So if it comes back where additional time is required, we'll certainly consider that, and quality is number one. But we're trying to push the timelines as well. So I totally acknowledge. Just the second point, if I could make note about the two-phase process. We had a lot of discussions about that within the project team. Number one, there's not a whole lot of comparators out there in terms of this type of review. There's two other CAs that have gone down somewhat of a similar path, but somewhat a lot differently, where one was looking at floodplain management, the other one was looking specifically at delivery service. This is very unique, and with various concerns being brought forward, so now we're trying to scope things down to say, okay, here's what we're hearing. Let's make sure we try to structure and with the first phase to be able to be broad enough to be able to capture it. However, as the team members have also noted in that process, to say, well, Peter, we got to include enough in the RFP to say, is this as big as a bread box or is it as big as a house? Because, so we knew right off the bat, even the $50,000 is pretty minimal. So we are actually, to be straight up, we're saying, here's the upset limit for phase one. We want to get the biggest bang and value out of that $50,000 as possible to make sure we cover the bases. So we're, based on the expertise that's around the table at the project team, we're saying we believe that should be sufficient to get a good cross-section and review of what we have, to be able to say, okay, here, here, and here we need to dig deeper. That's going to be part of phase two.
Just a follow-up question, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, and I just want to make sure that my understanding is clear that once this document is issued, there's no further involvement on the board in selecting the proponent. As far as I'm concerned, you have the authority to move forward with the winning proposal. Am I understanding that? Because I
That is correct. This is an independent process from the board. As per the motion, we've entrusted that process to our representatives at the region. Niagara Region, the City of Hamilton, and our interim CEO. So that is correct, Member Quirk. Member Hodgson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not a little disappointed in some of the things that I've seen proposed. And I think I just, I need to go back to the motion, and there are some fundamentals that were very clear. Took some time to make sure that how the reporting was going to go. And how we were not going to have a staff project team, because the reality is it wasn't a project. It's actually an organizational review, which is an investigative exercise. And I think it's maybe unfortunate that we've ended up with a project mixed in with an operational review, and quite simply the objectives that are laid out.
Okay, go ahead.
The objectives that are laid out and the way we have the reporting to be done by the consultant is totally contrary to the motion that we all passed.
Yes.
And the reporting, updating recommendations are to be direct to the full board. And I noticed actually in one copy of the motion, somebody has changed the word direct to directed to, which seems to sort of suggest that it's okay to have the consultant respond to a staff team and then have them report to an audit committee, which is really, again, just a small group of counselors. Each time provides an opportunity to filter and to have an impact on what the work is of the consultant. So the whole reason why the motion very carefully spells out what staff's role and responsibilities and accountabilities are was to make it clear that the acting CAO would provide, after his role in the select, what we're here for today, to select a consultant, his role is limited to provision of admin support. And I think we all know what admin support is. It's a room with a desk, access to files, access to information, provision of verbal and some historic written reports, etc. So that's it, other than cooperation. And that's kind of an important one. And I'm sorry that I don't read it. I don't read it. And as a matter of fact, there's a point in the RFP that says the consultant will attempt to be as independent as possible. That's for me, and the way it's being said as a project, that's code for we know who you report to.
Yeah.
So don't forget that. And that cuts to the whole commitment that we made to the community to have an independent, arm's length, third-party review. And so I have some real concerns that we are not going to get the product that everybody in the room that day in January knew we were looking for, which was an investigation of concerns that have been raised throughout the community, concerns that have been essentially endorsed by a number of different municipal councils. And that is what the review is to look at. And it is to be done independently and reported direct to all of the council, all of the board as a whole,
okay.
not vetted in advance.
Okay, so
That's part of the reason we're doing this at all is because we have a bit of a crisis of confidence in the community and public trust, and we don't have to go and repeat all of that again. Public trust is pretty important. And if we're going to rebuild public trust, we have to start to answer questions openly, accept an independent assessment of what some of the issues are, and then decide. But I'm quite concerned about the fact that we've got like weaseled down language for what we actually want to address.
So,
And-
so,
and so
hold
I-
on, I'm gonna call the pejorative language out of order, Member Hodgson. Now, understand that there are
Okay,
people that are not in
will
this, there are people in
withdraw
this
the
room,
term. I
that are
withdraw
people,
that.
there are people that are responsible for this document that are not in this room to defend those comments, okay?
I
With
withdraw the term.
with the
weasel.
exception,
I'm trying to just say.
with the
it's
exception
been
of
melted-
Mr. Graham.
It's been
Okay.
reduced somewhat.
Okay, so I will accept the
Cutting-
apology, I will accept the
Object.
apology then?
Yeah,
Okay.
watered down. I didn't mean to offend anyone.
Okay, all
It
right,
just-
so
that's
your
all I-
comments are noted. Your comments are noted. I really don't have a comment for you, Member Hodgson, because none of us have been involved in this process with the exception of Mr. Graham. So if you'd like to address those comments to Mr. Graham, you know, maybe he can provide a comment to some of your concerns. It has been developed with procurement professionals at the region of Niagara and certainly the city of Hamilton and our interim CAO. So
But I do have a
again,
question.
That's the point.
I have a direct question.
Okay, then go ahead.
To our acting CAO, Mr. Graham. So, who will the independent third-party consultant direct report to?
Direct report to.
Yes.
So there's a steering committee that's set up that'll include myself and the rest of the senior management team.
Do you not see the potential for, does that not just scream potential for conflicts of interest? You're setting everybody up for potential conflicts. because
if
we're-
people in the gallery
Mr.
can
Chair,
please.
I do not
please.
want anybody screaming out anything in the gallery.
Please,
again.
okay? This is, we're gonna have a,
Or you'll be objected to out of the meeting.
we're gonna have an honest discussion about this RFP document. Please, keep
Don't
your
allow
comments
this
in
at the
check,
regional
all right?
council,
Out of
we don't allow
respect,
it here.
out of respect for the process, and I'm sure everyone in this room can respect the process. Member Hodgson has the floor. He's asked a question. Please let the interim CEO respond to that question.
I understand, Mr. Chair.
Please, please, we're not accepting any commentary from the gallery, please. Mr. Graham, go ahead.
Will we be allowed to speak at some point?
Please, we are not accepting any comment, especially shouting out from the gallery. Please be respectful of the process. This isn't new. This isn't a new process that we're implementing for this special meeting. These are just respectful decisions that we would like everyone to respect. So please, Mr. Graham, go ahead.
Anybody want to take my spot?
I will.
I am in the position as acting chair at this point. CAO, sorry. You have to apologize if I'm a little upset. I'm going to speak from the heart. Flip. Got to keep the emotions in check. But I take offense if my personal integrity is being questioned. The motion was put forward specifically mentioning the acting CAO. And I'm going to be completely honest about having to fulfill this role within this setting, with all the stuff that's been going on out there. So I'm just going to say, look, I'm at the table, and I know that could change in the future, right? There's a recruitment process in place, and I am completely fine in terms of whatever decisions made down the road in terms of who's chosen. But at this point, the acting CAO has the responsibility to fulfill the obligations of the motion that Member Hodgson put forward. And I have every intent to do that. Maybe the project team is the wrong terminology, but the team that was put in place as per the motion, invitations were sent out by the City of Hamilton, Niagara Region, Halton County. We have representatives at the table. They have the procurement expertise that we really need to put a competitive bidding process in place. That's been done. I'm overseeing that process. So to ever intimate that somehow whatever the consultant, the independent third-party consultant comes up with in terms of review of files and everything else, that some of it's not going to find its way to you, is an insult. Because I will not allow that to happen. Whatever's found is going to come here, and it's going to be known. Good, bad, ugly. I don't care. I just want this done. And it's part of the reason I've been so aggressive to move it forward. And I really apologize for the emotion here. Really apologize. I don't want to show emotion. But this is getting to me. So let's move forward. And please don't question my integrity. I will defend it vehemently.
Anyways,
I am part of that team,
I
and I will ensure it's done properly.
I appreciate those comments, Mr. Graham, and on behalf of this board, we have every confidence in your ability to move forward with this project. Any other questions or comments? Member Campion?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I appreciate Mr. Graham's comments, and I do have full confidence in his ability to be completely open and honest with the process. So if you have that impression, and I hope you don't have that impression after I finish speaking, it's got nothing to do with you, Mr. Graham. I do have an issue, and the issue relates back to motions of council. And our council, the City of Welland, passed a motion. I claimed it was the best motion of all the motions that were being put forward, and I still feel that way. But as mayor of the City of Welland, I have no alternative but to object to the process that we're going through, and that's based on specifically the motion that we passed. The motion, in a nutshell, relates to putting the onus on the province to determine what the proper body is to investigate and to do the investigation and to pay for the investigation. So based on the criteria that we established as a council, this doesn't fit with what we're trying to do or what we suggested. So really the concept behind that motion was that it would be a completely independent body identified by the province, so that there would be absolutely no question, and as I say, I'm not questioning the integrity of Mr. Graham, but there would be no question of the integrity of the investigation. And secondly, the avoidance of cost associated with the process. So the issue is, this is going to cost who knows how much, $500,000, $1 million. If the province is willing to pick up the bill for that, which they've identified that they would, to me and to our council, it makes sense that we follow that process. I understand we missed a window of opportunity. I get that. I know that we want to provide the scoping for the investigation, what needs to be investigated, and that has to be identified at some level. But I'm disappointed, and as I say, can't support the process that we're going through based on the fact that it does not meet the criteria that we identified, and that there is an opportunity to meet that criteria. So having said that, I won't be able to support the process that we're going through. You know, I believe that the Auditor General did indicate that they would have an opportunity perhaps in the fall. I know everybody wants to get this done. You know, if that's our only option to meet the criteria that I've identified, then personally, and I think my council would be willing to wait until the fall to proceed with the investigation. Doesn't mean we can't scope out what needs to be investigated at this point. But in order to meet those criteria, I would support engaging the Auditor General again, seeing when they can do it, and providing them with the details as to what we want to have investigated. So based on that, I can't support what's before us, and I believe that my council feels exactly the same way. That's why I'm bringing this forward right now.
I appreciate your comments, Member Campion.
Please, I'm just saying from a business perspective. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
I appreciate your perspective, Member Campion, and we certainly respect the voice of your council in the City of Welland. But again, we are dealing with a motion that was duly ratified at this board level. The RFP document is the fruits of that that motion, and that's what we're dealing with today. So again, speaking to the RFP document that's before us right now, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll need a mover to ratify the document. Member Casper said, second by Member Quirk. All,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
just
Member
a
Timms.
couple of questions with regard to the motion. The motion on the table now is the move is to
Accept
approve for
and,
distribution.
it's to accept the report and to move forward.
Okay, so that's recommendation number 2, the attached request for proposal be approved for distribution. Okay, so
Correct.
you have, earlier in the meeting, you said that we cannot make any changes to it.
As per the motion that was duly ratified by this board, that the board has no involvement, has no say in the development of the RFP document, and certainly the entire procurement process, Member Timms. So I do have a motion on the floor right now, duly moved and seconded.
And I
It's
want
to
to speak to the motion.
So which part of it? To accept the
The
document?
first part of the motion is to be received. The second part is to be approved for distribution.
Correct.
So, before I vote on approval for distribution, you heard my request that the motions of the respective councils be included in the appendix, and you informed us that for some reason that additional information cannot be added to this before distribution. And I don't understand that. The second point I want to make is that the discussion around the involvement of the Auditor General did seem kind of easy, and on the face of it looked, because I was asked this at City Council in St. Catharines on Monday night. It seemed, on the face of it, was very simple. We just take the motions, we give it to the Auditor General, they'll do it for free. However, the motion that the bill brought to us and that this board passed defined an entirely different process.
Correct.
And the process identified the role of the CA, of the acting CAO, and the need to develop this RFP. So I think this RFP in general fulfills the intent of that motion, which did in fact exclude the Auditor General, but there may still be the opportunity when this work is done and there's a phase 2. So my question is the opportunity to engage the Auditor General in the phase 2 portion, so that this can move ahead quickly at this point. And what it does is identify through the operational review issues. And then the opportunity, if we pass this, is that phase 2, what do we do with phase 2? And is the Auditor General for free, available for free at that point? So that's my question to what's the content here before we approve it.
Okay, so to answer your question, and again, giving you incredible latitude right now, because what we want to do is really deal with the RFP document. But I will
appreciate
answer your
that, Mr.
question.
Chairman.
I will answer your question, absolutely. If in fact a phase 2 is required, the Auditor General has committed to helping in that process down the road, given her schedule and the timing of that opportunity. I think that has been well communicated, certainly to the board and certainly to the public. So we've had those conversations, and the Auditor General is very well aware of our process. She respects our process, and hopefully the goodwill gesture she extended will be available in the event that we do require a phase 2 and a deeper dive. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Member Beatty.
I just want to make sure some things are recorded and minuted. One, I'm under the assumption that Hamilton has signed off on this document.
That is correct. Well, Mr. Graham can answer that.
Yeah, through you, Chair, yes.
And I understand, go ahead, sir.
No, that they've had input in the process and the final phase or draft that was put together, they've had input, yes.
But they have, the staff representative from the city of Hamilton has signed off on
Correct.
this document.
Correct.
They agree with it.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that I'll find out but I'll make the assumption that that is going back to council for information. I'll make sure that occurs, because I think that's important to the city of Hamilton. The second one was Niagara representative has signed off, and I know Niagara has been a part of it because it's, as we go through it, Niagara seems to be the agent.
Yes, they're actually submitting or putting out the RFP on behalf of the NPCA.
So Niagara is going to act as the agent, so obviously they agree with it.
Yes.
And Haldeman didn't take part.
Correct.
That was Haldeman's choice.
Choice.
Have we sent a copy of the document to Haldeman?
That is a very good point. Not as of yet, but that will be
Okay,
a
well,
commitment
I
to do
would-
that.
certainly make
I
sure.
would ask
Yeah,
that
that's a good point.
that should be done. Haldeman should be informed as to what the document, the final result of the motion was, to make sure they're interested.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I'd like minuted is, I want to make sure that Member Tim's, because I too found the one thing lacking here was the inclusion of all the motions that we got from the municipalities. Because if we didn't get those motions from the municipalities, a strong indicator that they wanted this review, we wouldn't be doing it. This RFP wouldn't be here. Without that documentation, we're not doing this. Because Hamilton has specifically asked in their motion, whereas as Welland has asked, and the mayor even communicated very strongly that it should be done through the Auditor General. And I support my mayor's position on that. But we're here, we got a motion, we got a report, we move forward, phase one, see what the results are. But at some point in time, I still would like to see the Auditor General involved, because that really is at arm's length, and that office has a reputation across the province as doing a thorough investigation. So I would like to see that happen, but I would also like to see minuted that all those motions that we receive from municipalities somehow get referenced, whoever we select as.
We are not selecting anyone.
Okay, whoever the selection process comes up with to do this operational review, I would hope that all those motions find their way as background information, because that's the trigger point. That's why we're doing this. To exclude it, I can't understand why it's being excluded, but okay, we're going to exclude it, but I think that and that information that started the process should be made available to anyone who is doing the review. And I would ask that be amended.
I appreciate those comments,
Thank you.
Member. So right now, we have a motion on the floor. Member Quirk, Member Kaspersets, and going around the table, Member Hodgson-Westlander.
So just to speak to the motion, I hear the comments about we should include these motions from the municipalities. They are referenced in the concerns in the document. Any independent auditor or consultant worth the salt who is capable of applying for this is going to be aware of the situation before they walk into it, and they're going to have access to those motions, whether we include them in the document or not. So at this point, again, I go back to the idea that we are not to amend this motion or this document, because it has been directed by our acting CAO and the procurement experts to best, in their estimation, address the concerns of our motion. And further, they're all public documents. They're all received for correspondence. You can pull them off the website anytime on our website. So if the consultant is not making themselves aware of this, then I think they're probably not worth getting the contract in the first place. And I'll leave it at that.
You just echoed what that's fine.
Any other questions or comments?
Really only just to
Oh,
add.
just, I want to give Member Beatty an opportunity, and then for a second time, Bill.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
I appreciate the chair's direction here that we are not to modify in any fashion this, and I keep it at third party, arm's length, etc. At the same time, I'm hearing very legitimate comments coming from Councillor Timms, Councillor Hodson, and Councillor Campion in terms of factors that they think should be considered. I'm wondering whether, well, I know for sure we shouldn't alter this document, but I believe that there would be value in having the comments from those three councillors put forward to the team before final completion of this process, because they may be factors that that independent body didn't consider at the time. And I'm sensing from the comments or reaction from the gallery that that is something that they think would be worth considering. So I'm looking to the chair to see whether or not there is the possibility for some communication directly from those parties that have brought forth their concerns to the independent body for them to reflect on, not necessarily to act on, but to reflect on and possibly act, to make certain that this is seen to be as open and transparent as we all want it to be.
Well, and appreciate all those comments, Member Beatty. But again, for members to actually send recommendations or to direct the independent body that we've implemented that respects the motion wouldn't really keep it arm's length and wouldn't really keep it independent. So I want to respect the motion. The motion is very specific that the board not have any involvement in the RFP process. I'm comfortable that the board has not had any involvement in the RFP process. I respect the work of our interim CAO. I respect the work of the City of Hamilton and certainly the Region of Niagara. And I'll leave it up to the procurement experts to craft a document that, number one, respects the motion, that, number two, fulfills the obligations in a best business practice when it comes to an RFP going out in independent fashion. So I hope that addresses some of the concerns around the table. Member Hodson?
Yeah, I guess I don't know where you're going with the adding the motions to an addendum package for potential consultants. However, if you're going to include the motions, which I think is probably a good idea, you would also want to provide any written materials that accompany delegations that may have spoken to the board about this subject as well. So just to give the full flavor of what the issues are.
So I don't disagree. I don't disagree with any of the comments around the table, but I think Member Quirk succinctly put it together. If the independent consultant, once he's brought on board, and it's through no involvement with this board, once he's brought on board, he will have full access to everything. And whether he chooses to use those, whether he chooses not to include those, that will be his choice. It will not be directed by this board. Just as the direction I've heard loud and clear is the board will not have any hand in the RFP process. The board will have no hand in the scoping. The board will have no hand. And I want to maintain that fundamental principle. And that's the fundamental principle that I extracted out of that motion. And I've worked very, very hard to make sure that that motion has been respected. So seeing no other questions, we have a motion on the floor right now. The recommendation is that report number 2717 regarding the operational review and performance assessment of N.P.C.A. be received for information, and that the attached request for proposal number 2017-RFP-14 be approved for distribution. That's duly moved and seconded. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We will, yes, we will record Member Campion as being opposed. That motion is carried.
Same request, Mr. Chair, please.
Member Hodgson, Member Dart, in opposition. Okay. That is carried. Seeing no other business?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one other business, just to be clear that the comments and the concerns that were raised are noted in the minutes.
I have every confidence in Lisa to make sure she captures those minutes, but again, this board will have an opportunity to review those minutes, and at the appropriate time, if you wish to make amendments, additions, deletions, that will be the appropriate time, Member.
I think
Member Timms.
it's helpful for all the municipalities to be able to review the minutes and understand the discussion. So
Absolutely.
That would be helpful.
Absolutely, and I
Thank
appreciate
you.
everyone's time. Short notice, I appreciate everyone's time. Everyone's busy, so thank you for your involvement and your participation today. Seeing no other business, I will call this special special meeting. Actually, I need a mover for adjournment.
Closed session you have.
Yeah, we actually had, we wanted to remove that from the agenda. There will be nothing to discuss under this title anyways. So maybe, I don't know if we're out of order right now, but we need to motion to amend that Member Kasperset's, second by Member Diodati, that closed session item be removed. Seeing no other business, I will need a motion to adjourn. Member Beatty, second by Member Dart. All those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Can I just have a quick moment?